Her name was Evelyn Rose Carter, and she wore a red hat wherever she went. Not because it matched her outfit, not because it was stylish, but because it was her favorite, and it made her feel seen. She was 76 years old, widowed, fiercely independent. Her kids lived out of state, and her knees gave her trouble when it rained. But she still got up early every day, fed the birds on her balcony, and walked down 3 flights of stairs with her purse tucked under her arm. Evelyn believed that just because you got older didn't mean the world should treat you like you disappeared. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of cool gray morning that made her wish she'd brought gloves. Evelyn stood on the corner by the community center, canvas shopping bag in one hand, umbrella in the other. She'd called the rideshare service on her phone, the one her grandson had set up for her. But when the car arrived and the driver saw her, he didn't even stop. He looked at her, looked at the cane in her hand, and just kept going. Evelyn stood there, stunned, wind tugging at her coat. Another car pulled up behind. The driver rolled down the window. "Are you lost, ma'am?" he asked. Evelyn's voice was calm. "No, sweetheart. I've just been reminded I'm invisible again." That night, Evelyn sat on her couch with a blanket over her knees and a notebook in her lap. She stared at the words she'd written over and over. Too old, too slow, not worth the wait. And then, underneath, in shaky but strong letters, she wrote something new. "If they won't drive us, maybe I will." She didn't mean it as a joke. She meant it as a plan. Because if one driver could make her feel so small, maybe she could build something that made others feel seen. The next morning, she got up early. She put on her red hat, tied a scarf around her neck, packed a thermos of tea, and walked down to the senior center. "I need help starting something," she told the front desk volunteer. He blinked. "What kind of something?" "A ride service," she said. "For folks like me, folks who've stopped asking because they're tired of being told no." Word traveled fast. By the end of the week, she had a meeting with a local nonprofit. By the end of the month, she had volunteers. By the end of the season, she had a name, Silver Line Shuttle, driven with dignity. Evelyn didn't do it for attention. She didn't want praise or press. She did it because every time she passed another older person waiting alone in the cold, she saw herself. She remembered the pain in her knees, the ache of carrying groceries up 3 flights, the sting of someone assuming she was helpless. She remembered how one no can feel louder than 100 yeses. So she decided to build a louder yes, one that came with wheels. She started small, just her old 1998 station wagon, 2 working seatbelts, and a sticky note taped to the dash that read, "Drive with love." The first riders were her friends, ladies from her bingo group, most of them dealing with aching knees, bad backs, or loneliness they didn't always say out loud. They passed a coffee can around the table to chip in for gas money. Some weeks she only made 1 or 2 trips, to the grocery store, to the community clinic. But even those little rides made her phone ring more often. Then, one day, her neighbor Marvin knocked on her door. "You still need help with rides?" he asked. "I've got an old minivan I barely use. It's yours on weekdays." He handed her the keys like he was giving her gold. The next week, a retired bus driver named Lillian offered to volunteer 2 mornings a week. "Used to run routes for the city," she said. "Now I'd like to drive for people who actually say thank you." They formed a tiny team, Evelyn, Marvin, and Lillian, running a shuttle loop for the forgotten, the slow-moving, the quiet ones who rarely asked for help. But Evelyn wanted more than movement. She didn't just want to get people from one place to another. She wanted them to feel human again. She printed name tags with bright, bold letters. She handed out peppermints, wrapped in gold foil, to every rider, just because she thought it was cheerful. She carried a notebook in her purse, stuffed with birthdays, medication reminders, emergency contacts, and kind notes like "Sandra likes gospel music." "Tom walks slow. Don't rush him." "Beatrice cries when you ask how she's doing. Don't stop asking." The name she gave her service, Silver Line Shuttle, tagline, "Not just a ride. A reminder you still matter." People didn't just leave her van with groceries or prescriptions, they left with their dignity. And Evelyn, she left every stop, knowing that something inside these riders had changed. not just their location, but the way they saw themselves. Word spread. It started with whispers, stories passed along at pharmacies, churches, bridge clubs. You need a ride? Call the lady in the red hat. She doesn't charge much, and she brings snacks. She'll ask how your grandkids are, and remember their names. One morning, Evelyn answered a phone call she wasn't expecting. This is Riley from Channel 6 News. We heard about the shuttle service you've been running. Can we ride along for a story? Evelyn laughed into the receiver. Only if you bring a seatbelt and some patience. My turns are wide. That Friday, a news crew crammed into the back of Marvin's van, as Evelyn rode shotgun, with her clipboard in hand, directing stops. They filmed her hugging Miss Dorothy, as she climbed in. They filmed her helping Mr. Reggie with his walker. He filmed her reminding the driver, watch that dip near Maple Street, it jostles the hips. That night, Evelyn's story aired at 6 p.m. At 76, the anchor said, Evelyn Carter didn't wait for a solution to come along, she built her own. And what started as one ride, became a movement. The phones at the senior center started ringing. People asked how to donate. Retired folks from nearby towns asked if they could start their own chapters. One woman sent an envelope with $20 and a note that read, for the Peppermint Lady. Thank you for reminding me, I'm not too old to dream. Within a year, Silver Line grew to 4 vans, each with silver stripes along the side, and driven with dignity, stenciled on the doors. 12 volunteer drivers signed on, some with big vehicles, some with smaller cars, but all with big hearts. Evelyn had a waiting list of over 300 seniors, but no one waited long. Because Evelyn made sure everyone who called got where they needed to go, on time, with a smile, and maybe a hug on the way home. Today, if you stand outside the Eastwood Senior Center, around 8 a.m., you'll see a little rush hour of joy. Silver vans pulling up in a row, drivers opening doors with careful hands. Laughter spilling from rolled-down windows, bingo cards, grocery lists. Lively conversation, people who once felt like burdens, now feel like family. Evelyn no longer drives. Her eyes have gotten a little foggy, and her knees don't love the brake pedal. But every morning, she's there, wrapped in her red sweater, hat on her head, clipboard in hand, sitting on the bench with a warm mug of tea beside her. How's the fuel, Marvin? Don't forget Miss Beatrice needs help with her bags. Oh, it's Lucille's birthday today, make sure she gets the front seat. They gave her a plaque last spring, hung it right next to the center's front door. It reads, in honor of Evelyn Rose Carter, who refused to wait, who made room for others, who proved there's no age limit on courage. And just beneath that, in smaller letters, carved into silver, started with a no, drove it into a yes. Evelyn doesn't like to be called a hero. She says she just got tired of standing on the curb, being told she didn't belong. Sometimes, she says, you just need to pick up the keys and make your own ride. And because she did, thousands of people now move through life with more freedom, more laughter, and more respect. They wouldn't give her a ride, so she gave others something bigger. A reason to keep going, because when the world said she was too old, too slow, too late, Evelyn Carter said, I've still got places to go. And she took the wheel, not just for herself,